James, what was the point that you were trying to get across when you went to Atlanta and Vegas when training camp was starting?
I was just training.
What were you training for?
The start of the NBA season.
How did going to Atlanta and Vegas help you there when the Rockets were starting training camp in Houston?
Just my personal trainers.
James, now that you've been in camp for about a week, do you feel any better about this situation now than you did before you arrived?
Next question.
There was a season of South Park where they tried to have continuity, which means essentially it's a season where the episodes build off of each other as opposed to a season where you could just hop into any episode and you don't really need any context from previous episodes because there's no character development at all whatsoever. And the basis of their continuity was they were going to poke fun at one of the most trendy and headline-grabbing presidents of all time in Donald Trump. And the reason why they failed is because by the time they were able to turn around an episode and get an episode out to you guys, Donald Trump did like 15 different things that were trendy to the point where a 2 to 3 day turnaround period wasn't enough for South Park. There was so much to talk about that by the time they came out with the episode and made jokes about Donald Trump in the episode, it was yesterday's news. And as a result, they failed. They don't use continuity anymore. And the reason I bring that up is I find myself in a very similar situation with James Harden. By the time I wanted to make my James Harden video, he got into a fight with a teammate in the middle of practice. My buddies Get Like Coop and Mike Korzemba caught you guys up with that, so I figured there was nothing more that I needed to add to the story. But then I saw that James Harden was caught at a club. And when I went to make a video on that, there was even more information that came out this morning. And I'm finding myself sitting here waiting for the full story to come out. And more information just keeps coming out. So this is where we are up until now. And hopefully I got you guys all the pieces that you need to know before going into the Rockets season opener today. So what's going on, guys? Your boy Mike here. Before we get to the content, I just want to let you guys know we're giving away a PlayStation 5 to one member of Mike Mafia that's subscribed and turn on our notifications on this channel. Bear in mind, we're about 12,000 subscribers away from hitting 500,000 subscribers, man. So I wanted to thank you guys for that. And if you want additional entries, then follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Where do we begin with the James Harden saga? Well, we have a slew of previous videos if you need to catch yourself up about what's been going on from James Harden's end in his attempt to force the Houston Rockets to officially trade him. You see, the Houston Rockets and James Harden are in a very difficult situation because James Harden doesn't want to be on the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets understand the type of player James Harden is and understand the return that he should yield. But nevertheless, the big issue with that is there is absolutely no team that could give the Rockets James Harden's value, and there's no team that could pretty much take on James Harden without feeling like they got screwed by offering up a deal for him. For example, you take the Brooklyn Nets. You saw them play last night. Does it really look like they need a third star? They have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, a ton of depth, two great traditional defensive centers. It just doesn't seem like they need James Harden. You look at the Philadelphia 76ers, and would you be comfortable as a Philadelphia Sixers fan watching them part ways with a 23-year-old that has already made the All-Star team, that hasn't even scratched the surface of his potential, for a 31-year-old James Harden, which is pretty much going all in on a championship team potentially, and if it fails, then you pretty much screwed yourself for the future. Although there is a slight chance that may happen because Daryl Morey perceives James Harden as this.
You know, someone asked me who's a better scorer, him or Michael Jordan, and it's just factual that James Harden is a better scorer than Michael Jordan.
Based on the math.
Based on literally, like you give James Harden the ball, and before you're giving up the ball, how many points do you generate, which is how you should measure offense.
The Toronto Raptors also held exploratory talks with the Houston Rockets, and the Denver Nuggets might possibly have the best package for James Harden potentially. If I'm the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets came up to me and offered me Michael Porter Jr., in addition to Bol, RJ Hampton, Gary Harris, and a bunch of first-round picks, I think that's the best the Houston Rockets could do at this point, because I don't see the Denver Nuggets parting with their core of Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, and they even came out and said they won't. And that's where you get into a very difficult situation, because James Harden is taking the route of being more and more increasingly difficult throughout this entire situation. Now, this resulted in Shams Charania coming out with a story yesterday in which James Harden got into a verbal confrontation with multiple teammates during practice on Sunday and Monday, and this included throwing a basketball at rookie teammate Jayshawn Tate after a heated exchange. Now, this is very interesting because this is following rumors that James Harden is going to play his role and it's going to be business as usual for the Houston Rockets. As a matter of fact, Tim McMahon had this to say about the James Harden rumors. Since I've been here, nothing has been said about it. Everybody in the locker room and the coaching staff has been focused on ramping up and preparing for the season, and that's all that matters. Shams also reported that Harden is planning on remaining professional while he is still with the Houston Rockets, although the practice confrontations could kind of give you a different side of the story. So what's truly going on here? Well, there's more to this story than what you guys think. So here's what his teammates thought about the altercation. Steven Silas said that when you have competitive guys, you hope to have competitive practices. That's what we have, that's what I want, and I want competitors on this team. Now, Rockets' new addition John Wall had this to say about James Harden's status as a leader. At the end of the day, we can't focus on what James does off of the court. All we know is he comes in every day, he works hard, he's been one of the leaders of our team in this locker room, and that's all we can ask for. But there's even more information on this story. Shortly after this confrontation with his teammates and Jayshawn Tate, James Harden was literally spotted at a club a few hours later. You can see him here brandishing the brand new Dior luggage with the caption, "I got him the new Dior luggage for Christmas because I love my best friend to death." And the implication, according to Robert Littell of BSO, is that James Harden is currently partying at a strip club without a mask on once again, which is once again a direct violation of the NBA's pandemic protocols. Now, James Harden's actions may have ended up costing the Houston Rockets big time, because according to Tim McMahon, the Houston Rockets are working with the NBA office to review video of James Harden at a strip club. If the video circulating on social media is verified to be recent, it is a violation of league's COVID protocols, which would put Harden's availability for tonight's opener in jeopardy, which is a fair point. For all you know, this could be an old video of James Harden that just resurfaced on the internet that people are taking completely out of context to incriminate James Harden because well, that's just kind of what the media does. They take things out of context to paint a person in a bad way. And oh no, James Harden just came out and admitted that he was there during the pandemic, saying that one thing after another, I went to show love to my homegirl at her event, not a strip club, because she is becoming a boss and putting her people in a position of success, and now it's a problem. Every day it's something different. No matter how many times people try to drag my name under, you can't. The real always end on top. Which is nice to say that he wasn't at a strip club, but by saying this, he pretty much admits that he was at a gathering of 15 plus people in the middle of a pandemic. Now, in James Harden's defense, the laws in Texas are really lax. Like, it's kind of famous how relaxed the COVID pandemic restrictions in Texas are. You hear stories of people like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk moving from California to Texas just because there's more freedom there. But nevertheless, the rules are the rules, and he may have costed his entire team very big, because then we got this report that several Houston Rockets, including John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and possibly more, are expected to miss tonight's season opener versus OKC due to coronavirus contact tracing. Now, bear in mind, James Harden got COVID before when he was in the bubble. He tested positive, he recovered since, but regardless, he's expected to abide by these guidelines. Now, the crappy part about all this is, so far, John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins have tested negative for the pandemic, but their status for tonight nevertheless remains in jeopardy. The Rockets' contact tracing is connected to testing on rookie Kenyon Martin Jr. According to Adrian Wojnarowski's sources, Martin is on team injury report now, as he's not with the team and he's self-isolating. As of now, DeMarcus Cousins has tested negative for the coronavirus, and this is a result of the deeper story. And the deeper story about this is there was a group of Houston players, including Kenyon Martin Jr., John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, away from the facility at an apartment getting haircuts. That's led to the contact tracing on Wall and Cousins as team awaits more testing results on Martin. And this could potentially cost the Houston Rockets big. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think is going to happen with James Harden? Do you think he'll get traded within the next week or two? If so, who will come out and trade for him? Do you think he's out of control, or do you think he'll eventually subside and play good basketball with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins? I'm your boy, The Flight Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.